This is Support is Sexy, episode 395, with serial entrepreneur Karen Hunter, award-winning journalist, book publisher, professor, and host of The Karen Hunter Show. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I bring you inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and lessons to help you take your business to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here today. If you're listening in real time, happy Monday. Happy to have you here because it just would not be the same without you. And today I am so excited. This is a great way to start off your week. I'm telling you, if you are not inspired by this episode, then I just don't know. Today we have the one and only Karen Hunter with us. And as you heard in that intro, Karen has a lot of things going on and I did not even scratch the surface. But what I love in this episode, I call her a master side hustler. I don't know if she likes that title, but that's what I'm calling her, master side hustler. But her side hustles are like getting the Confederate flag taken down in South Carolina or launching the best government tech app in the category, just because she is so moved and passionate about being of service to people. And through her show, her award-winning show, The Karen Hunter Show, which is a radio show, super popular, excellent content. But through her show, she really uses it as a platform to push the conversation forward and to take action. So it's not just entertainment. It's all about action. So on this episode, Karen talks to us about the show, about using your platform to move the conversation and to move things forward. But she also goes into having a side hustle, the importance of having your own side hustle, whether you have a job or not. And Karen had side hustles, these huge side hustles, like writing New York Times bestselling books, several of them, while she was a full-time employee at the Daily News, where, by the way, she won a Pulitzer. So she was doing excellent work, which she talks about in this episode, the importance of being excellent at your quote-unquote main job while you build your side hustle. This way, hopefully your main job will leave you alone. But either way, being excellent at everything that you do, never asking for permission, again, using your platform for good. I'm all about that. And how to stretch yourself to capacity, basically to know what you're really made of. Karen is all about pushing yourself to do the things that you really want to do. And one last thing before I let you jump into the episode, she gives some great advice to all of you writers out there. I know there are a lot of writers out there like me, whether you're writing for magazines or websites or articles, but most of you are thinking about books. Karen has her own imprint with Simon & Schuster, Karen Hunter Books, because again, she has so many great things going on, but she has some amazing advice for writers. So make sure you listen out to that. All right. So now without further ado, the one and only Karen Hunter. So Karen, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Man, thank you, Elayne. I appreciate you and everything that you're doing, by the way. This is awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot coming from you. Now, tell us, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
Well, my dad owned a corner store, Hunter's Corner Store in Newark on Ridgewood and Madison. And I used to watch him get up every day at 5 o'clock, go down, open the store, come home at midnight, dead tired, reconcile his books. He did this Monday through Sunday, actually every day. It was open every day. And he also was a parole officer at the same time. So, and I remember the fights on Christmas morning when he would go down. So our Christmas was altered. We'd have to get up super early and celebrate Christmas so that he can go down and open the store, because he never wanted to abandon folk on any holiday or any day. But what was really cool was, when he on the weekends, we would go to the bank together. And he opened a bank account for me and showed me my pass. At that time, there was no electronic banking. Mm-hmm. Everything was done in a passbook. And every week he would put money in my account and show me the records. And it just inspired me to want to work for myself. He would have me rolling pennies and dimes and nickels and quarters. And I really loved doing that. And and I felt like I was contributing to our household. So when I graduated from college, I went to him and I said, instead, because he wanted to buy me a car, I said, just, let me be a part of the business. And he wouldn't. So, yeah.
Why wouldn't he, do you think?
Because it was dangerous, at the time. He had been held up a couple of times. It was a corner store in Newark. At the time when Newark was Newark, even though he was from that neighborhood and grew up in that neighborhood, he still, people would rob him, and he couldn't imagine, I guess, me being in that store, and he couldn't imagine me imagining how to expand the business beyond having to stand up the way he did, 18 hours. Stocking, going to the wholesale house. I would go with him on the weekends to the wholesale house to get the drinks. And, I guess he couldn't imagine me doing that or expanding the business. I'm a girl,
Right.
So as much as watching him inspired me, him denying me the opportunity made me want to be more successful than he was. So he sparked in me a
fire in you.
Yeah.
So what then, once he said no for you being involved in the business, what was your first thought? What did you think, other than I'm going to be more successful, but what did you think your path was going to be? What did you decide at that point?
Well, at that point, I didn't know exactly what it was going to be because I didn't even have a job.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that whatever it would be, because this is something he drilled in me too, that you'll never be rich working for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I went to college, which, but I'm not going to work for somebody. I'm going to have, wherever I work, that's going to be, my secondary hustle. I'm going to work there until I build my own. And so I got a job at a local newspaper. Long story short, ended up at the Daily News, a year and a half out of college. And while I was there, I started a 3-on-3 basketball league. I did an all-star basketball game because I was covering sports and high school sports at that. And I decided I would bring women in from all over the country. And I had a deal with the Sports Channel at the time, which was a Long Island television network. And I learned how to package commercials with advertising. And I had Adidas and Emerge magazine, and I had a whole bunch of people come forward as advertisers, and I was able to put on this wonderful event. And that taught me, you can learn. I got the Red Book of Advertising. I learned myself while I was at the Daily News working how to put on events and how to do things in television. So that was my first toe in the water, and then it just kept going from there. I had about 5 businesses while I was at the Daily News.
Wow. And you were at the Daily News for 16 years, right?
Yeah.
And won a Pulitzer while you were there.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you were just getting by at the Daily News.
No, because here's the truth, if you don't want people paying attention to what you're doing on the side, you got to be excellent so that they don't bother you, So as long as you're, producing, no one is paying attention. I wrote 3 books while I was there. And I remember my boss one day, because my first book I did was with LL Cool J. And in many ways, that's also entrepreneurial because I was, writing while I was there. I used his office. LL would come up, we'd stay till 4:00 in the morning, going over the material. And one night I think I left some pizza boxes in his office, and he came in the next day. He was like, Hunter, it's my office.
Stop using my
office. Yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry, it never happened again. But
so he was aware that you were doing other things, but like you said, you were excellent at your full-time job.
Yeah. Exactly. And I remember one of my coworkers one day said to him, because I had an interview to go to at 1:00 in the afternoon, and I just left. And he was like, why does she get to leave? He said, she's finished.
Mm-hmm.
Mind your business.
Exactly.
She's the fastest writer on staff. And that was the one thing, I would make sure I get my piece in, really quickly. And no matter what he threw at me, he had the nerve to give me education and child welfare, which at the time was the biggest beats when I was on the editorial page. And I'm like, oh, my God, so every day I had to write.
Mm-hmm.
But I would knock those pieces out, send them in, and then go off and interview Biggie or somebody, and go off and do my side hustle.
And it sounds like a lot of what you did, of course you went to college. Did you study journalism in college, or what did you study in college?
No, we didn't. I went to Drew University, and we didn't have a journalism department. So
Mm-hmm.
I was an English major.
Okay, me too. English majors are cool. So, but
yes.
It sounds like, though, a lot of what you did, you learned as you went, which I want our listeners to catch. It wasn't like you knew how to do the event, or you knew how to, you were doing it as you were learning it, as you went along.
As a matter of fact, while I was at Drew, I was an RA one semester, and I started a chicken business in the kitchen of our dorm.
I love it.
Yeah, so we had I had a car. My dad given me a car, and we had there was like no good food in town, and so again I went to the wholesale house because I knew where to go. Went to the wholesale house, got a deep fryer for like $50, and bought chicken and French fries and cucumbers because you got to cut it, because you can't have all that grease. So I had cucumbers, French fries, and fried chicken. And in the basement of my dorm, we had a fried chicken business in it, and it started growing so big that we're in a little bit of a college town. Drew is in Madison, so down the street was Fairleigh Dickinson and St. Elizabeth's College. We started having orders come in because there was a phone in the basement of the dorm and a kitchen, full kitchen, and I would deliver. And I had
and you
a couple
had people
of my
working for you.
Yeah, a couple of my classmates, and it was so funny. When I was out on a delivery, I came back and everybody was like sitting, looking really sad. And we've been doing really well. It's like a couple of months. And I'm like, what happened? They just like, the Board of Health came and shut us down. I didn't have a license. I didn't know I needed a license. I'm like, I know we're cooking good chicken. And it was turning, the pizzeria turned us in, the pizzeria downtown.
Haters.
Yeah, Rocco's.
Dream
Yeah, they were
killers.
like, yeah, what's going on here? What's this? Because we have flyers and everything. And like, what is this?
Well, I was going to ask you, did you, for a lot of the things you did too, it sounds like you didn't wait for permission, which is another thing that holds a lot of us up.
Yeah, permission's bad.
Permission's bad.
Yeah, I'm at Sirius XM right now, and when I got here, I'm on Urban View, channel 126, and nobody was really paying attention. Joe Madison, of course, is the anchor, but outside of that, nobody was paying attention to the channel. And I like that because I did a lot of. I created an app. I set forth a lot of initiatives, and it was weird because I never asked anybody for any permission. And now that I'm head of programming, I can't do anything without asking for permission. As a result, things don't get done with the same level of expedience. So I'm like, I have to go through all of the red tape, and the legal has to sign off. And I know why, as a major corporation, those things have to happen. But for the most part,
You're
my
used to
philosophy
be
is
more
always
nimble.
Yeah, well, that's what an entrepreneur is, right? You apologize later,
That's right. And you see a problem and you jump in it with the solution if you can find it, even if that means a chicken spot in the basement at your college.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about then, how did you end up at Sirius, and now, as you said, head of programming at Urban View? But what was your move from the newspaper to there? Was that the next step?
Well, again, my dad he worked 18 years as a parole officer while he ran his store. And he was so successful that I don't have any student loans, never had any student loans as a result of the money that he made in his business, not as a parole officer. But I always would have a side hustle. So while I was at the Daily News, as I said, I launched several businesses, including a magazine that I ended up getting $1 million from Wall Street, Bear Stearns, to start while I was there. While I was still working at the Daily News, I launched a business. And my boss said to me, okay, because I went to him, I said, look, I just got this $1 million, I'm leaving. He said, okay, well, I'm gonna hold your spot for you. So if it doesn't work out, you can come back. And I was like, word?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
that's the thing of excellence. That's the result of you being excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really cool. And it didn't work out because we were right on the precipice of the .com bubble bursting, and all of this money was being thrown. And then within a year, all of these companies were going out of business, mine included. And I came back, and I ended up becoming a columnist at the Daily News. That was my second, go around there. But what was really cool was, even being there, I was always doing something else. I was writing books. As I mentioned, I did 3 New York Times bestsellers while I was at the New York Daily News, working there full time. I launched a business that I got $1 million from Bear Stearns to do. And I started my publishing house as a result of losing my job at the radio station. So I had a radio job at the same time I was there as well. So I was like, I was juggling all of these things. And then I started teaching at NYU while I was there. So, I've always, I have a particular personality, always knew that I couldn't sit in one place. In many ways, having these different jobs made me feel even more in control of my own destiny, because if any one of these things went away, I had something to fall back on. And that was, kind of also drilled in my head. A lot of times you want to, be an entrepreneur and just quit your job and go out there and do whatever it is your passion is. But you got to have a backup because things happen and, the world is very unpredictable sometimes, no matter what your plan is and how great it is. Things don't always, matter of fact, they rarely turn out the way you expect.
Right.
They always turn out the way they're supposed to, though, which is fascinating. But so I've had the security of knowing that I have these other things that I can do if this doesn't work.
And they say most successful entrepreneurs have at least 7 streams of income.
Yeah.
The only thing is you're not taking on, it sounds like small things, though. You're taking on huge things and doing them very well. But people do, they say the most successful have at least 7 streams of income, some passive and some that they're involved with.
But it also stretches your capacity to know what you can do. The more you pile on, and sometimes, we do too much. I went through a phase of doing too much, taking on too much, and then balls drop because you can't juggle that many balls and not have something suffer. But, even that builds a muscle in you that, when you come back down from that, okay, I learned that lesson. I can't do 18 things, but I can do 7 things very well. So let me pare that back. And next time I'm going to say no to this because that, hurt that. And, so those are the things, I always want to see, even with my money sometimes, what my capacity is, how much can I spend before it's
or it all falls apart.
Yeah. But then I get right up to the third rail and I come back. But, you want to see what your capacity is, or you'll never know what, where your breaking point is. And not that you want to be broken, but sometimes in that process is where you build the next layer of strength to do the next thing. So
you want to stretch yourself.
Right. So I ended up at Sirius XM. I had been out of radio. I was on a little station in New York called WWRL while I was at the Daily News. And I ended up at that time, I was also doing some television on CNN as a commentator. And they approached me about having my own show, which was really cool. And I went into management and they said, but we need you, because I had a co-host. We need you to have your own show. So I went into management at the radio station, negotiated my own show in the afternoon, not knowing that they had already brokered a deal with something called Air America. And so within 2 months, that show went away. Air America ended up, taking over the station. And I was out of radio for 10 years. For 10 years, I couldn't get back on the radio. Nobody would hire me, which I was like, well, am I blacklisted? Okay, no problem. So I decided to start a publishing house.
This other thing.
And that came about because I've been writing all of these books for these publishers, and I've written for just about every publisher, Simon & Schuster, Penguin, all of them, HarperCollins, St. Martin's Press. And I couldn't get books published that I wanted to do. So they all wanted celebrity books. Of course, they sell. But I wanted to do books that mattered. And I said, well, the only way I'm going to do that is to start my own company. And so I approached Simon & Schuster about partnering, and they said yes. And that launched Karen Hunter Publishing. But I still wanted to be back on the radio. So I'd been trying to do different things. I even did a blog talk radio show at some point. And I was so desperate to get back. And this is before podcasts existed. And but I finally had a meeting at Sirius after being told, no, we don't want you, with a woman named Liz Aiello, who runs a bunch of channels up there. And she was considering me for something called POTUS. And it was politics of the United States. And I'm like, I don't really just want to do politics. I want to talk about things that matter to me. And I can do politics, but it's not my thing, And so I said no. And then a couple of months later, Urban View came and said that, did a 30-day trial run with me, and I killed it. And they brought me in. Yeah, they brought me in for a 2-hour slot. And then another channel launched, and then they put me on that channel. So I was on 2 channels simultaneously. And that just kind of, grew from there. But I did something unique. I'm not under salary. I decided that I would, and that's how we were able to do it, because they said they didn't have any money. We don't have a budget. So I said, okay, well, we may not have a budget. And at this point we were talking, it was August. We may not have a budget until January, till the new year. And I didn't want to wait until the new year. So I said, let's just do a profit share, commercials. And long story short, they said yes, because, what do they have to lose?
Right. And it allows you to keep some of the ownership.
All of the ownership, so we're like partners, and we split ad revenue, which to me felt empowering until I realized that I was working for a company that was made its money on subscription, not on ads. So I
Oh,
was like,
right.
yeah, I didn't calculate that, but that's why you got to do your homework.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, wait a minute, where's the ad money? And so they have ads, of course, but they don't really, it wasn't a thing that they cared about because they're a $5 billion company off of the 35 million subscribers.
Subscriptions, right.
Yeah. So I was like, And that's the other thing. I mean, you really have to know your business, So that forced me to go back. Thankfully, the show was successful enough for me to go back and say, hey, here's the deal. I need ads. And here's the other deal. I'm on a channel with Black people. And Black people as a group spend $1.3 trillion, according to the Urban Urban League. Every year they put out this report.
Mm-hmm.
And we spend more than $1 trillion. And yet there are no ads on this channel. There's a problem here.
Missed
so
opportunity.
Right. I said, so while I know ads, you still have an ad company, you still have people that sell ads. Here's an untapped, resource. And I challenged them and I met with the ad sales team, Cali and Chicago, and I made my pitch and magically ads started coming into Urban View. And so everybody started getting ads because I demanded that I had ads, and then everyone got ads. And as a result, I was able to go to management and say, I brought in X amount of dollars last year, and I'd like to run the channel.
And they said, okay.
Yep.
And that's how you became the head of programming there.
Well, that and, bringing in good programming
of
and
course.
Having great relationships.
But you had leverage of saying, this is what I was able to produce, which is how you've done all of your work, showing, as you said again, the excellence.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to show receipts. I think people think they get promoted just because they're nice or they show up every day on time.
Right.
Yeah, but companies exist because they make money. This is a capitalist society. So if you are working for someone that needs to make money and you produce money for that company and you're able to quantify and show on paper receipts that you brought in money, then it's hard for them to tell you no. I was just reading about Ellen Pompeo from Grey's Anatomy. She became the most highest paid actress, in television. But she has proven after they killed off her husband, ratings went up. Ratings mean money, right? And she can sit down and say, Grey's Anatomy as a show has brought in this amount of money. I'm the star of that show. Therefore, I deserve to be paid X amount of dollars. She can make that case. And they can't tell her no because the numbers are there. So, I encourage everybody, wherever you are, wherever you're working, you're always working for yourself. You're always an entrepreneur. You're always working. You're not working for that company. You're working for yourself. So you need to know, first of all, what your value is. And if you sit down and you do the math and you're not bringing in, triple your salary, you're somebody that's going to get cut when they go down the list to make cuts. You never want to be in that position.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was it about radio that you really loved? Because you mentioned that you weren't able to get back into it for 10 years, but you had done all these other things. You could have said, okay, well, I don't need to do that. I'll focus on these other things. What is it that you love about radio? Radio
is the most intimate relationship you can have with a group of people you don't know. So before radio, I would say teaching is the best thing that I've ever done in my entire life because you get to impart upon, a group of people, things that you've learned. You get to see the light bulb go off in their, you get to see them go out and become successful as a result of the things that you taught them. And there's a satisfaction that if you are a human being that loves human beings and loves to see folks successful, it is so rewarding. And I'm that person. I am a natural born, I call it a conduit, whether it's writing books with celebrities, I'm the conduit to tell their story. And when it's successful, when it's done well, I feel really accomplished, like I've done something because I know I've touched people's lives through these words, through these works, through this exchange. So radio is that magnified by 1,000,000. And I think about the awesome power to be able to move the needle. Now, some people use it for evil, to destroy people or to misinform people. I think about Rwanda, which was that conflict that killed 1,000,000 people who were basically cousins and brothers and sisters, was done over the radio airwaves, that they encouraged people to hate one another to the point of murder. That's power, But if you use that for something that's positive, like I did with the petition that I wrote to take down the South Carolina Confederate flag.
Right.
That was one day emotional anger put into a petition, come to the airwaves. I didn't go on anybody else's show but my own and talk about what happened in Charleston at Mother Emanuel Baptist Church and those 9 beautiful souls. And then I said, this is what I did as a result. I wrote these 2 paragraphs on this petition because I don't know what else to do, but I can't imagine those bodies having to go past a Confederate flag after that terrorist went in and murdered them in cold blood. I need to do something. And that was the thing that I did. And then 3 days later, 577,000 people signed that petition. That happened only on my radio show.
Mm-hmm. And
I didn't go anywhere else.
And that flag was taken down by Governor Nikki Haley, right?
Yeah, well, it took a lot more, and she didn't want to do it, but she was forced.
Down, right?
She was forced into it, right? Because the power of the people will eventually. She could take credit for it, but no, it took those 577,000 people saying, "I don't like this, and you have to do something or else." For her to say, okay, but there was the state legislator who we also called behind the scenes, all of the folk that were on the fence, and tell them, hey, you see these people, you like your seat, okay? Here are the things you need to do. And Bakari Sellers pitched in with me behind the scenes, but there's power in being able to move the needle in that way. And that was the wake up call for me to say this radio thing, outside of entertaining people. And again, some people use it for evil and some people use it for fodder. But for me, it is the most intimate, powerful weapon against injustice that I've ever experienced. So I love it. Absolutely.
Love it. And you're brilliant at it. One of the best shows.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing that you've done, or many other things that you've done, I don't know if this was because of the response that you saw with writing the petition, but you've created We Own Tech, hashtag We Own Tech, which is a directory of resources for people wanting to enter the technology space, which people can find on your website. Go ahead.
KarenHunterShow.com. Now so you have this space and you have these people, and then you say every day you have to get up and feed them, right? And the tech space, you're telling me there's only 2% of us in tech. Mm-hmm. Well, what can I do about that? Because that's the equalizer right there. Tech is where the new billionaires are being born. Tech is where there are 1 million+ jobs unmanned in this country. We have to go out of this country to find people to do these jobs. Tech is where we see, like at San Quentin, they have a tech program. There's a 0% recidivism because they're teaching people how to code in prison, and then they're having jobs when they get out and they have no reason to go back. Mm-hmm. So if tech is this thing, then we have to tackle it. And if I have a radio show which reaches possibly, millions of people on a daily basis, I have to be at the forefront of this, at least providing resources. So we did that just naturally. And we created an app because I wanted to show people, because I'm half a Luddite, as you just saw with me trying to get on onto Skype, but I'm uncomfortable, right? I'm not somebody that likes to Snapchat. So I've forced myself into this tech space because I want to show that anybody can do this, even somebody that's not comfortable. So we created an app called the Party of Lincoln app with the audience's participation. So they got to go through every step of this, from the 4 developers that failed us to the one that succeeded, and they got to have input into what was going to be on the app. And it's their app, and it's number 1 in the tech sector, and that's because of our audience. So right. I don't want to just talk about something. Let's show what we can get done when we work together, which is again, the power of this medium is that you get to, kind of give people marching orders in terms of like what it is that we can do, instead of complaining about, we don't have this and we don't have that. Okay, well, it's only 2% diversity. Well, what can we do about it?
Right. What's the solution? Which goes back
exactly
to what you were raised to think and how you've always thought. And for our listeners, just to keep up, We Own Tech is a directory of resources for people wanting to enter the tech space, which you can find on KarenHunterShow.com, right? And then yes. the app that Karen's talking about now is called the Party of Lincoln, which I saw the description says a nonpartisan resource guide where you can register to vote, change your party affiliation, and get candidate information during election season, nationally and locally. People forget about local, how important that is, right?
Super important.
And you can
it's more important. Yep.
Yes, awesome. And it's, like you said, the number 1 app in the government space.
Yep, GovTech. Yep.
Awesome. Now, before you go, I know you only have a few minutes left. I do have to ask you, this is purely selfish, and I fully admit it, as an author, speaking to someone who has an imprint, Tell me, what do you look at or what do you look for in a book proposal that makes you say, yes, I want to publish this?
99% of the books I published have been books that I commissioned. So I don't really field a lot of proposals. I know that just like, and I'm transitioning right now because publishing is transitioning.
Right.
And again, I have to ask myself this question: do we need major publishers when we have people willing to participate in the things that we do? What's the purpose when they don't market, they don't promote? Every book that I've published came through. I edited 90% of them and wrote half of them. So what am I getting from them outside of distribution? And do we need mainstream publishing when distribution has changed? So I'm actually asking different questions of myself now. But I think the thing for me, and again, as a visionary, because I do think you have to have a vision for anything that you do. I had lunch yesterday with a gentleman who's writing a book, and he started talking about the book. And when he started talking about his book, he has so much passion. And I said, why haven't you written that book? He said, well, my agent didn't think it would sell. And I said, that's a problem. That you were telling me about your other book. I didn't give a damn about it, and neither did you. And as soon as you started talking about this book that you've been working on for the last 3 years, your whole spirit lit up. Mm-hmm. And so I've never written a book with the thought that somebody was going to buy it. I've only written a book with the thought that it's necessary or that this story has to be told. And if you have the passion and the excitement around it in yourself, somebody's going to feed off of that. So my advice to anybody out there who's writing, write your book, finish it. J.K. Rowling wrote her book as a single mother on welfare in a cafe, and she didn't know if anybody was going to buy it. But she had a beginning, middle, and end, and she knew this story about this wizard was something that she was passionately designed to write. And 20 publishers said this sucked.
Right.
20.
I was going to say she was turned down several times, right?
So look at her now.
Right. That's right.
So I say to anybody out there, write your story if it's in you to do. Somebody will come behind it and edit it. I don't ever worry about that either. It being perfect. Just write what your spirit calls you to do, because that's where you're going to find your success.
Karen, I'm taking that with me. I feel like that was just for me, but of course it's for everyone out there, but I'm taking that with me. That was excellent advice. Now,
you're welcome.
Yes. Now tell us, what has entrepreneurship taught you about yourself as a woman?
It's weird. I don't know about you, but when I wake up, I don't think about myself as a woman or even as a Black person. I'm just Karen, right? And as I grow in wisdom, I realized that I was uniquely formed to be what I am today, and all of the experiences that I've experienced, and the disappointments and the failures, which I don't look at as failures, all of the things that I've acquired put me in a place to be exactly where I'm supposed to be. So what it's taught me more than anything is to find who I am, why I'm here, what my purpose is. And, through every single thing that I've done, I'm like, I don't know anyone else that can do the things that I'm doing, but it's only because I've done all of these things, right? So your journey is not going to be duplicated, and you can't duplicate anybody else's journey. Like, I don't want to be the next, you fill in a blank. Mm-hmm. I can only be the one and only Karen Hunter. And so entrepreneurship has taught me about freedom, because it's given me some space to explore those things. It's given me some space to actually, fail and succeed, sometimes on somebody else's dime, which is great. Somebody invests in you. You can learn a lot wasting somebody else's money, because it's way more painful. I've done it the other way too. I don't like that too much. But it also taught me that I'm resilient, that I can come back. If you can do it one time, you can do it again. And, sometimes what you want to happen immediately doesn't happen immediately because it's not supposed to. And, if I had gone back into radio immediately, I might not be where I am right now. Mm-hmm. So I look at that because it didn't make any sense. I'm like, why am I not on the air? I know I'm better than this person or that person. And that's the other thing. Like, you can't compare yourself to anybody else.
Right.
Yeah, because we do that. I know I'm better than that person.
Right.
Yeah, but, that person's on their journey, and that could be fleeting, so who cares? I don't get in people's pockets anymore. I don't care what anybody else is making. I don't care what anybody else is doing. I never look left or right. I just know whatever I'm doing, I'm supposed to be doing it right now, even if I'm not sure why I'm doing it, in the time it will reveal itself.
Mm-hmm. So in closing, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Elayne, that is a bomb question. Just one person?
One person.
Oh,
personally
okay,
or professionally.
Okay. Do they have to, they could be dead?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to thank my grandmother. My grandmother, Julia Sweeper, my mother's mother. She was the first person to love me that I know for a fact unconditionally. I was her first grandbaby. And, did she spoiled me. But what she also made me was extremely fearless, because, no matter what, there's a person on this earth that loves you no matter what you do. And that gives you courage that I can't even explain to you. It made me bold in ways. I used to spend my summers there. My mother said to her that she ruined me.
Right. And then she sent you back home, right?
Send me back, yeah. She says, "Oh, you ruined my daughter." But what she did more than anything was provide me with a foundation of courage that I don't think I would have had otherwise. So I'm going to thank her. Awesome. And tell her, you just made me. I never answered that question before. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's beautiful. Now, before you go, tell us how we can all support you. I'll have links, of course, to everything that you mentioned, your website, but just for everybody listening, website, any social.
Website, Karen Hunter Show is the website. That's also the Instagram, which I just got out of my comfort zone, started doing Instagramming a couple of months ago. People like, yay, you're on Instagram. I was like, I don't understand why I need to be on it, but now I do. So on Instagram at Karen Hunter Show, on Twitter, which is my real thing. That's the call to action. I'm at Karen Hunter. And we're about to do a major voter registration drive, which I started on my own. And now Sirius XM is getting involved in it, which I'm happy about. But at the same time, there's a lot of red tape. But I'm happy that they're putting their full force behind it, because it's important for us in particular, to have power in this process. We vote probably more than any other group in this country, but we need more numbers. And I'm doing it to get the voter, the formerly incarcerated back into the fold, and that's become, kind of a rallying cry for me. But we're using the voter registration drive as a way to wake up the folk who were formerly incarcerated, to make them know, to let them know that you're citizens. You deserve your rights back. You made a mistake. You paid your debt. You no longer should have to carry that forward. And eventually we're going to do a whole, check the box initiative as well, because you shouldn't have to check whether you were a former felon. You paid your debt. Right. Why do you have to? Are you you're innocent for the rest of your life, or you're guilty for the rest of your life? At some point, we have to make that decision as a society. And I'm also, targeting kids who are turning 18, because I think millennials are so important to our future, and we disenfranchise them in so many different ways that I want to put a big hug around them as well. So we're going to do a voter registration drive. So stay tuned for that.
Excellent. Karen, let me know if there's anything else I can do to support you. I just love everything that you're doing. I think it's amazing, and I know the importance of support. So I'm here, anything that I can do.
Well, Elayne, I appreciate that. You're doing a lot with your platform, giving people like me an opportunity to talk about the things that we're doing. And, we are each other's keepers. So I appreciate you, and back at you. Excellent. If there's anything that you need, let me know.
Thank you. Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
Be yourself, 100%. Find out who that is first, and then be it. You were put here for a reason. Don't comport and pack yourself into a box to make other people comfortable. If people around you are uncomfortable, that's a sign that you might be doing something right.
Excellent. The one and only Karen Hunter. Thank you so much. Hold on just a second.
All right, Elayne.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Karen Hunter. Told you it was a good one. I felt inspired after that one. To find out more about Karen, about the Karen Hunter Show, about everything that she's up to, and the links and the resources, all of the great things that she mentioned in this episode, I want you to go to supportissexypodcast.com. Go to the search icon at the top and just type in Karen. Her show notes page will pop up with the links, the resources, all of the ways to get in touch with her, to follow her on social media so you can stay up on all that she's doing, and to connect with her. Supportissexypodcast.com. Search for Karen, Karen. Her show notes page will pop up with the links, the resources, and again, all of the great information from her. Now, we've had interviews with a few Karen, so make sure you look for Karen Hunter. You will see her there. Also, to check out her show, you can go directly to KarenHunterShow.com. I want to make sure you find out about that and stay up on what Karen is doing. So to go directly to her show, go to KarenHunterShow.com. To find out all of the resources and the other things that were mentioned in this episode, supportissexypodcast.com. So you got some homework to do, but some great places to go to get the information that you need. All right, so I appreciate you being here. As I always say, it would not be the same without you. Please make sure, if you haven't already, wherever you're listening, subscribe to the podcast. And if you love this episode, please leave us a review. Let us know what you loved about it. What did you get from it? It only takes maybe 2 minutes to leave a review. So I would love that. I would love to hear from you. I always say I'd love a 5-star review, but any feedback is appreciated, especially if you're talking about a specific episode or the show overall. Let me know what you think. All right. Again, thank you so much for being here. And until we talk next time, always remember, you deserve support. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.